Okay, it's Sunday, which means against my better judgment, it's time to go on Reddit and see what questions we can dredge up from this wretched hive of scum and villainy. Genuine question. Is this considered toxic behavior? And the basic gist is, dude said I need healing, and then got talked mad shit at him for the rest of the game, and asked if it was genuinely toxic behavior. No. The Mercy player was just an asshole. As many Mercy players are. I'll get my friend to confirm that later, she'll tell you. One tip for your main hero. There were some good ones in here, because I looked at it earlier. Torbjorn, if you're interested in that, he's about to get reworked, bear that in mind. If you move backwards as Winston and jump, you can do a small leap. This is one I'm a big fan of. We talk about this one frequently. There was one for Zenyatta that as if you're ulting near McCree as Zenyatta, you can actually block line of sight with his ultimate, because your hitbox is still actually there, so you'll block the shots for other people. I didn't actually know it worked that way, but it makes perfect sense. So, yeah, that's cool. Best heroes to climb with right now, besides Hanzo. Zenyatta's really good, Zarya's really good. I think right now Reinhardt is really good as well, because presently Reinhardt versus Reinhardt is a pretty common occurrence out there, and if you're better than the other Reinhardt, you're gonna dunk on the other Reinhardt, and that makes it a lot easier to win the game. So, but yeah, it'd be Zarya, Zenyatta, Reinhardt, Hanzo, of course. Pharah, I think, is really good, but Pharah's always really good. Tracer's always really good, Genji's always really good, these people are very consistent. Mercy, theoretically, is really good, like, she's in basically every game, she's a really strong hero, but climbing, carrying as Mercy is pretty hard to do, but I would say the best ones are Zenyatta, Zarya, Reinhardt. Bridget also, if you're in low SR, Bridget's really good, and when I say low SR, I mean, bronze to gold. Bridget's really good, because people make a shit ton of mistakes, and you can just punish all of them. People will make a lot of mistakes, and they won't play around you as Baguette, so you can just dunk on people and bully around all those bad DPS mains out there. I've been steadily climbing as the supports, mostly Zen, but I feel boosted by the meta and struggle to have an impact. And the gist was they got placed Plat in Season 10, and then suddenly shot up to Masters. Which, I mean, I don't think is, that necessarily that surprising, but I guess it did take 6 seasons to get to Plat, so, I guess there's that. But anyway, there are questions. What is my objective as Zenyatta in a coordinated dive, and how do I achieve that? Basically, it's to put the Discord Orb on high-priority targets so that your team can burst them to death, and to put the Harmony Orb on your flankers, because a Tracer or a Genji that has the Harmony Orb on them is actually an unstoppable monster. So that's the objective, basically, is your orbs are really strong, and you're, being Zenyatta, you have effectively infinite range, so you can still contribute as just, shooting at people, but it's really just, the orbs are really good with the dive comp, because the flankers really like Harmony Orb, and everybody loves Discord Orb. But a dive comp is meant to kill the enemy team very quickly, so it's just about putting Discord Orb on the priority targets. I frequently get caught out by the enemy using Shatter, then Grav, my trans only saving one of course. What's my play, and why? So, you shouldn't have to use Transcendence for Shatter. First off, that's very upsetting, if that's frequently happening. Because if your team gets hit by Earth Shatter, that's your Reinhardt's fault. That's not your fault. If you don't have a Reinhardt, there's your problem. But putting that aside is you shouldn't have to use it for Shatter, but sometimes you will have to. This is correct play from them. The idea is that you force Zenyatta to use Transcendence for one ultimate, and then you hit them with the other ultimate. Or, if you're playing Genji, there's a question later that ties into this kind of, that was is it a worthwhile trade for Dragon Blade if I get the enemy Zenyatta to use Transcendence? And the answer is no. The goal is to get Zenyatta to use Transcendence before you use Dragon Blade by pressuring the Zenyatta, or using another ultimate to get it out of him, and then using the other ultimate. Because, yeah, if you dump 4 ultimates on Zenyatta, he gets to go, like, 1 for 4. But, like, if you stagger just, like, 2 of them, he can only use them on 1, right? Like, 1 threatening ultimate happens, Zenyatta's gonna use trance for that, then you use the other one, and he can't use it again. So, you know, if they use them like that, they played correctly. All you can do is use your ult for 1, and then hope the other one gets mitigated somehow. But if it is frequently, like, Shatter, then Grav, the issue is more your team not blocking Shatter. That's not Zenyatta's responsibility to block that. I try to avoid dives by playing further back from the team, but this has repeatedly seen me being too late with my trans. If I play closer, I find myself dead from the main brawl. What's my play, and why? So, the unfortunate answer is just that the correct position is somewhere in between those 2 points. And where exactly that point is will also vary based on your team comp and the enemy team comp. There is no simple answer to this question because there are too many variables. But the answer is, there is a sweet spot between being too far back and too close. You just have to try and find that. The question itself has, like, a lot going on. Like, there are a lot of variables to account for. Like, if your team is a dive comp, you're going to be way further back from your team than you normally would be because they're going to be diving in way ahead of you. But that's not going to be really an issue because the dive comp doesn't care about Zenyatta because he has Transcendence. Yeah, the Transcendence is nice, but as we established, the benefit of Zenyatta in a dive comp is more the orbs, and Trans is just like, if it helps, it helps, right? So it doesn't matter that you're further away, because the comp is fundamentally doing something that doesn't require you to be close. But if you have, like, a fairly sedentary team comp, like Orisa, Roadhog, Soldier, Hanzo, something like that, then the correct position is basically, like, just slightly behind the rest of your team, right? Like, and then the enemy team plays into this as well. There's a lot going on. Like, there's a lot of variables for the question. The answer is unfortunately just, experiment more and you'll get a feel for it. My aim is very poor and I position myself so I don't have to take difficult shots. However, this makes me feel like I have very little impact, and most of my trans comes from spamming tanks. Should I keep avoiding squishy duels or take them, even if I have the possibility of losing them, but if I win, it would be fight winning? So, most ult charge honestly comes from farming tanks. This is like an underrated aspect of playing tanks, is positioning so that you mitigate how much enemy ult charge you give to the enemy team. So that's not terribly surprising that most of your ult charge is coming from farming tanks, because that's kind of how every hero in the game works. Like, even if you're playing Reinhardt, most of your ult charge comes from just trading fire strikes back and forth with the enemy Reinhardt. So that's not too surprising. And like, Zenyatta's not a dueling hero. It's more like you farm tanks when you have nothing else going on. And if you see the opportunity to try and pick off a squishier target, then go for it. Like, try for it. But if it's, like, specifically going out of your way to duel somebody, don't do that as Zenyatta. Zenyatta's not a dueling hero. He does have the opportunity to pick people because of his long range and Discord Orb. So if you see an opportunity to try and pick somebody off, by all means go for it, but don't explicitly go looking for duels, and just fill time by farming tanks. And this is true of all heroes, really, is just farm tank when you've got nothing else going on. Just be doing something during downtime, and the easiest thing to do is farm a tank, basically. So, tired of dealing with harassment and toxicity. Deleted. Overwatch community has gotten better, but is still pretty bad. General tips for practice. I'm playing in a scrim, how people practice the game outside of simply grinding ladder or pugs. I mean, I'm not really sure what answer you can be expecting, because you have to play the game to practice, so there aren't really many alternatives, really. You kind of have to play the game. Different sends for different heroes. I wouldn't recommend it, because muscle memory is kind of important, and if your sensitivity is variable between all of the heroes, then you're going to have problems. For particularly precision-based heroes like Widowmaker or McCree, turning it down lower than everybody else might be beneficial, But I don't really recommend having multiple sensitivity settings. Personal preference, though. Sensitivity is one of those things that's a very personal question. Storm Arrows is lame as fuck. Someone needs to say it. No, we all know. We all know that's true. That's why it's been nerfed like twice already, and it's going to get nerfed again. So, we know. Don't worry. McCree main stuck in plat. I didn't get an MVP card. What are the requirements for being an MVP? It is literally just time spent on fire, I think. Also, does anyone have any tips for how to climb out of platinum? The harsh answer is maybe don't play McCree. McCree is just kind of worse than Soldier and Hanzo, so there's that. But if you want to do it specifically as McCree, grind a lot until you're really good at aiming. Also, don't worry so much about, like, killing people and worry more about, like, bodyguarding for your team, because McCree has this, side benefit of being able to protect squishy targets because he has hard crowd control. So maybe focus on that a little bit more and not just killing people. But the harsh answer is don't play McCree, pick Hanzo or Soldier. Basic tips that are useful. Yeah. Are there resources where I can find other spots for Ana grenades like this one? Spoilers. I do remember seeing a video a really long time ago that was just like all of the sick Ana grenade spots. I'm sure you can find the video on YouTube if you just Google Ana grenades or something to that effect. I remember seeing it a long time ago. Like, it was a long time ago. Various ways to play around a Bastion Orisa comp. So if we're talking about just one person, then the best you can do is pick, Hanzo, Junkrat, or Pharah, and just try and kill the Bastion. Also, all of those heroes are good at breaking barriers, which is, of course, good, because you've got to get through the barrier to get to Bastion. But the thing is, though, that any kind of, like, Bastion-based team composition requires a team effort to actually deal with, because the enemy team, they're using this unthinkable concept called teamwork, right? And the only way to really beat teamwork is with teamwork, because one person can't really beat 3 people. It's not feasible in a game like Overwatch. So it kind of requires a team effort, and the best way to do it as a team is to change to, like, things that are good at breaking barriers, so you can pressure the Bastion or just, like, out-shield the Bastion. And then just change to, like, Orisa Roadhog, really good at breaking barriers, then the Roadhog yanks the Bastion out while he's exposed, the Bastion dies. Ana's really good because she can bio-grenade him, and he's really vulnerable. Sleep Dart him, takes him out of turret form, he's easier to kill. Discord Orb is good because it makes Bastion squishier. Pharah, Hanzo, Junkrat, all good at breaking barriers, all good at killing Bastion. I don't recommend playing things like Genji, because Genji used to work when Bastion players were awful and would kill themselves on you, but now, like, with the damage reduction that he gets and all that, like, it's very difficult for Genji to kill a Bastion. The way Genji would beat a comp like that is by killing the Mercy so the Bastion is more exposed, but, like, I don't recommend picking heroes like him. Tracers can be okay, because you can farm up alt-charge stick Bastion, and that won't kill him, because it only does 300 damage, and he's got damage reduction. But it can kill the supports. Bastion's gonna have to heal himself to survive, probably, like... It's difficult. It requires a team effort, unfortunately, in most situations. And it also requires your team to not, like, as soon as the enemy team sees, like, a fucking pirate ship coming towards them, your team, like, teams just do they forget Robert Downey Jr.'s sage advice. They go full retard immediately. And, like, you'll just see the Reinhardt just jumping out in open space in front of the Bastion, just gets killed. Because he's like, I gotta stop this Bastion, I gotta tank this Bastion, I'm just gonna stand out here and get fucking chewed to death. Like, it's difficult. How do you guys improve your aim on supports? I assume this is about Zenyatta. Play the game a lot until your aim gets better. It's all muscle memory, so you just kind of have to grind it out until you get better. It's not really the answer anybody likes to hear, but that's just how aim works, unfortunately. There are some aspects of gaming, competitive gaming, that there's no shortcut to. You just have to grind it out until you get better. Anybody who has ever attempted to play a fighting game will understand that very well. I myself have, I've been playing Dragon Ball FighterZ, and I've played over 2,000 games. I've played like 2,300 matches, and I still don't have a 50% win ratio. It just takes a lot of grinding to get good at that kind of thing, unfortunately. There's no shortcut. Is it okay to flex? I mean, yeah. Is it okay to flex if it makes my teammates more comfortable to play? We ended up winning the game, so I'm assuming it's okay, but what if I start climbing more significantly? Can flexing hurt my SR and cause me to lose games? It can. So, like, the thing with flexing is that it's an inherently supportive thing to do, because you flexing onto, like, varying things, you're just going to inevitably be worse than a player who, like, hard focuses on a couple of heroes, right? So what you're saying is, like, I can play a few heroes competently, so I'll just play those heroes so that my teammates are playing the heroes they're good at, and then that's hopefully better than them playing a hero they have no idea how to play, right? So, like, I mean, there are people who have climbed by only flexing, so obviously, like, it doesn't hurt to do it. My stance on flexing has always been that you don't need to know how to play that many heroes. I've always just recommended being able to play, like, picking out the heroes you like playing and you want to play, and get really good at them, and just be okay, like, be competent on a couple of heroes in every role, right? Like, if you really want to play fucking Genji or some shit, alright, that's fine, like, play Genji, focus on that. But try and be able to also play, like, a tank or two and a healer or two. You don't have to be great at them, they don't have to be, like, as good as your main hero, and they probably won't be, right? Like, I'm really good at Moira, Bridget, and Reinhardt. I can play a lot of heroes competently, but those are the heroes I'm really good at, and that's how it is for most people. You got a few heroes you're really good at. Just try and be okay at a couple of heroes in every role, because inevitably there will be games you can't play the hero you really want to play. So just try and be okay at a couple of other heroes. If you want to be, like, a really flexible person, then great. That just inherently takes more work, because you'll spend less time practicing one individual thing. So somebody who has, like, this is how people climb without just, like, playing one hero. They're just really fucking good on that hero and can make it work in, like, even bad situations. If you try and play, like, every hero in the game, it takes you a really long time to get competent at every hero in the game. And some people are into that. More power to you if you are. So it is okay to flex, but my stance has always just been, just be able to play a couple of heroes in every role, and it's fine. Can Ryan Shatter on top of the payload? So, I'm pretty sure the answer is meant to be no, but sometimes it works. Earth Shatter is this way, where it's maddeningly inconsistent. So there are some things that are very consistent. So this is not how Earth Shatter is meant to work, but it is incredibly consistent that it works this way. If you get knocked in the air while you push Q, it goes off in the air. It doesn't wait for you to come back down again. And we know that's not how it's supposed to work, because if you jump off of a high ground and start ulting, it waits for you to land on the ground before you use Earth Shatter. But, and this happens a lot now, because Doomfist is, like, pretty common right now, right? So I've seen this happen all the time. Reinhardt gets punched in the air while he's Earth Shattering. Earth Shatters in the air and nothing happens. Because you've Earth Shattered the clouds. So Earth Shatter is a maddening ultimate. I'm pretty sure it's not meant to work on top of the payload, but sometimes it does. So sometimes it goes under the payload. Sometimes it doesn't go under the payload. Sometimes it goes around the corner, sometimes it doesn't, because the line of sight just clips. Sometimes it goes up a staircase, sometimes it doesn't go down a staircase, because I guess it counted the bottom step as a fucking wall and didn't do it. is why I'm glad they're changing, like, the on the PTR, they're changing the indicator. Like, it doesn't do the cracks in the ground anymore, it just does it like a shockwave out. And honestly, that makes more sense because, like, the cracks lie so frequently. Like, I've seen so many, like, if you ult, like, Volskaya's second checkpoint, you'll see cracks on top of the catwalks, but, like, it didn't hit on top of the catwalks, because that's a fucking wall. So, you know. Earth Shatter is a maddening ultimate. Like, it is actually, like, it's mind-boggling how many bugs Reinhardt has right now. Like, there's so many. They're all so upsetting. The Earth Shatter going underneath people's barriers is becoming more and more common, so that's very upsetting. If we could get some Reinhardt bug fixes, that'd be great, because, so, like, the last, like, week or so that I've played, I've gotten Earth Shattered while my shield is up, and people have gone like, didn't you have your shield up? I'm like, I'm glad you said that, because I thought so as well, but I wasn't sure if I was crazy. Like, that's becoming really common. If we could get some bug fixes, that'd be great. Using cover and angles effectively to extend your life and increase your overall contribution. Using cover is an important aspect of the game, yes. Support main here, it would mean the world to me, and the general support community, if you could occasionally turn yourself 180 degrees for a split second, and then 180 degrees back. Yeah, watch if your supports are getting murdered behind you. Important news. I'm a thirsty boy, so obviously I'm drinking coffee. That'll definitely hydrate me more. I feel like my wins are an absolute fight for my life, and my losses are just steamroll. That's just because of how our stupid monkey brains work. Like, it probably isn't actually that way. It's just we tend to remember unfortunate memories more vividly than pleasant memories. So. Why isn't Overwatch on a Nintendo Switch? Ask Nintendo. I don't know. I was gonna say maybe it's too violent, but then I thought Bayonetta is a Nintendo exclusive at this point, so probably not. I don't know. Ask Nintendo. There's probably some reason. It might be a tech issue. Like, I don't know. I can't begin to hypothesize. How to play aggressive main tank playstyle against Hanzo. I try to play aggressive as Ryan, and I feel like Hanzo just shuts that shit down. Yes. Yes, he does. You kind of can't. The answer is basically be aggressive on the Hanzo first. But, yeah. Hanzo is a very no-fun allowed hero, especially if you play tanks. I like to play really aggressively as Reinhardt as well, and, yeah, the answer is basically Hanzo doesn't let you do that. You just kind of have to play more cautiously against Hanzo. And if you're going to be aggressive, make sure Hanzo is the source of the aggression first. And then it'll be easier after that point, yeah. Hanzo does indeed shut that shit down real quick. New to Overwatch and curious about maining D.Va. Are there any ways to be able to tell if you're playing well or improving rather than just getting lucky? I mean, just look at, like, if your stats are steadily improving. That's one way. I think most stats are kind of a waste of time. Look at your deaths. If your deaths are, on average, really low, you're probably doing good. That's the one I think is really worth tracking. But you can look at your stats. Does anyone have any tips on playing D.Va well? On playing D.Va and using her ult well? Try and find people who are off by themselves and, like, try to bully that person, because D.Va's really good at picking people off, because she does a lot of burst damage when she initially engages on someone, because you fly at them, firing missiles, firing your guns, and then you bash into them with your body, and that does, like, this huge burst damage when you initially dive on the person. So try and find, like, 200 health heroes who are kind of off by themselves, and, like, dive on that person, and you will probably kill them. Because D.Va's really good at that. She's really good at punishing people who fuck up because of this high burst she does when she initially engages on you. And using her ult well, it's typically used just to get another mech or to zone enemy ultimates. So, or to zone the enemy team. Like, you hear the enemy, like, really obvious example, if you hear them use sound barrier, you can just throw your ult down, and then suddenly they're like, well, guess I kind of can't go in off this sound barrier anymore. You hear Dragon Blade get used, you can just ult right next to your team. And Genji either dies, or he has to waste time on his Dragon Blade hiding from your ultimate. Either way, beneficial. So it's typically used for zoning the enemy team, or just to get another mech. Because sometimes you'll lose your mech, and just like you really need to have your mech right now so you can fight in the team fight. So you'll just use it to get another one. Kind of similar to Winston's ult, where you just kind of use it for survival a lot of the time. You know, that kind of thing. But focus on like trying to figure out when you can kill somebody who is off by themselves, because D.Va is a very kill people hero. Also, look at the enemy team and see if there's any ultimates on the enemy team you really need to stop with Defense Matrix, like Death Blossom or Barrage, or Attack Visor, Deadeye, and just try and keep track of those heroes, and try to make sure you have some Defense Matrix to block those ultimates if you have to. Those are like the big things for D.Va. Dealing with Tracer and organized play. This is a really long post. Is it an issue that we need to counter-scout her more? If our Zen is playing back, the Tracer takes longer to be able to get to him, so we should be able to respond, but it feels like the Tracer isn't called out until she's already up our asshole. Yeah, so it's... You just have to you have to find the Tracer, because if the Tracer... If it's organized, then the Tracer is going to actually, like, jump in and try to kill the Zenyatta while your team is preoccupied with something else. So you just kind of need to really actively be looking for Tracer so she doesn't kill your Zenyatta or force him to use his ultimate early. Basically. Improving communications with mnemonic devices. It's a video. Let's just look at the... I'm not going to play the video, but let's look at the title of the video. If you're interested... Here you go, Improving Your Comms and Competitive Mnemonic Devices by Hammock. I was about to read that as like some absolute foolishness, so there you go. Go watch that if you're interested. I have 2 questions about Genji's Dragon Blade. Who should I kill? Here you go, here's that question I was talking about earlier. Who should I kill first? Healers like Ana or Mercy, or even damage dealers? Is it a good trade if I kill no one with my ult, but Zen use trans? We already talked about that one. No, the goal is to try and get Zen to use his ult before you use Dragon Blade, by pressuring him or using another ultimate. And the answer here is, it varies. Typically you will want to go for the healers first, but sometimes just killing the damage dealers is easier, and just killing both of them will be immediately impactful enough to win the fight. So it's like these are the highest priority, but if you see some damage dealers that are just easy to kill with Dragon Blade, like you can kill both of them really quickly with Dragon Blade, just kill both of them, because ultimately the goal of Dragon Blade is just to kill a lot of people. So if you kill both of them, you can just immediately then start pressuring the support afterwards, after killing them quickly. So these are the, like, ideal, but if you see a couple of damage dealers that are easy to kill with it really quickly, just do that, because then your team can just, like, be... Like, if they don't have damage dealers, they can't really win the fight anyway. So if you kill, like, both their DPS and your team commits to the fight, you'll probably win regardless. So the goal is really just to kill a lot of people with Dragon Blade, but these are, like, the primary goal. But sometimes the damage dealers are just easier to kill because the Mercy is too hard to get to, or something. Or there's like a Bridget sat right next to the healer, right, in case you use Dragon Blade, but the DPS are not being so protected, then it'll be easier to kill them rather than trying to kill the Mercy or Ana that's right next to Bridget. You know, that kind of thing. So it varies, but the goal is really just to kill a lot of people. How to get interested in this game again? I mean, interesting games wane. It's just, I love this game and want to play it, but it's hard when it gets so mundane. Doesn't really sound like you love it then, if you find it mundane so frequently either. Like, some people really like Overwatch, but they don't like playing the game, because they like the heroes and the designs and the lore and all that, so, you know, that's fine. Sometimes, you know, interesting game wane. Like, nobody ever plays the same game for the rest of the time. Unless they are a big streamer, like Ninja or Cutie Pie, wherein they will play Fortnite and League of Legends respectively until the day they die, because they make an absolutely ludicrous amount of money playing that game. So why would they not? You know, why would they not? Anyone else not stuck in Elo hell, but like Elo purgatory? It's gone well, just... Should I just push through the losses and keep playing, or just play 3 games a day? And like, you do just kind of have to grind it out. That's kind of just how, like, climbing in any game is, it's like, as long as you're playing consistently well, you'll eventually climb. It's just how long that climb takes varies. Climbing is a marathon, not a sprint, so you do have to just kind of push through. Plat to silver drop, what happened? I was a platinum solo queue Lucio player this season. I use looking for group for every round, flex support characters to best fit the meta. Only join teams that require mics, but I dropped from why and how. I can tell you exactly why and how. You were a solo queue player who is suddenly trying to play in a coordinated environment. Because this is the thing with looking for group, is that it is a fundamentally different experience to just solo queuing, because you're queuing with probably 6 other people against 6 other people who are also queued together, because that's how the matchmaking system works. It tries to put full teams against full teams. So, playing solo queue versus playing with in a coordinated environment is just a fundamentally different experience, and you have to learn how to do that. Like, playing solo queue, it's a more chaotic environment, whereas coordinated teams, like, require coordination. I know that sounds stupid to say, like, yes, obviously, but, like, it's just very different when you've got 6 random assholes that have been put together and are trying to make it work than 6 people who are partied together, all talking to each other, all communicating with each other. It's just a different experience. So, you know how to play the game, but you don't know how to play the game with a coordinated team versus a coordinated team. So it's learning how to play in this different environment that is the issue for you, in all likelihood. So yeah, that's what was that at the very bottom that I just saw? The clear putting together successful teams. Like it's more likely just that you are playing in a different environment than you're used to, and that's the issue. Roadhog playstyle. I recently picked up I'm wondering how he is played. Should I focus on breaking shields, or should I be looking to hook squishies or tanks? Are there any maps on which Hog excels? Any map that has pits on it, and King of the Hill maps. There's a big overlap between those 2 categories as well, actually, so there's that. Yeah, Roadhog's really good at breaking barriers, so the answer is you focus on breaking barriers until you find something else to do. Like, you're firing at the shield to the Reinhardt or the Orisa to fill time, and then as soon as you see someone you can hook, you hook them. Like, hooking somebody is your highest priority target, is your highest priority, and the squishies are the highest priority target. Sorry, bang the table. So just shoot at shields until you find somebody that you can hook. You shoot at shields to fill time until you find somebody that you can actually hook and kill. Tanks can be good to hook as well. They're really easy, but it requires effort from your team to kill the tank if you hook them in, which might not always happen. A squishy Roadhog can kill by himself, or with... So, not always, like, sometimes you might need very minimal help, but, like, Roadhog can still one-shot somebody if you do it right. So, squishies are the priority, but, sometimes a tank is also fine if you think your team is going to back you up, and just shoot shields until you find somebody that you can hook, is the gist. I feel like I have no idea what to do with my ults. A lot of D.Va and Genji. I always feel like there's going to be a better time to use my ult. And if I use it now, I'll miss the chance. Should I just use the ult or save it for later? If you see an opportunity that looks good to use your ultimate in, just use your ultimate. Don't save it thinking, oh, I might find a better opportunity. That's just, like, Doom fucking drilled that into us. I found this rocket launcher, but oh god, I can't use it, because what if I need it later? Like, I can't use this fucking mega elixir, because what if I find actual Godzilla in the next room, right? Like, if you see a good opportunity to use your ult, just use your ult. In general, I find that a good rule of thumb is just that, like, if you're in a position where you're thinking of if you should use your ultimate, that probably means you should use your ultimate. And sometimes, I banged the table again, I'm sorry. Sometimes it's going to be that you used your ultimate in the wrong situation, and you're going to do nothing with it. If that happens, just look at what you did with your ultimate, and ask what you could have done better. Ask if, like, that was a good time to use your ult, or if you failed to use it mechanically, or if that was a bad time to use your ult, and just learn from it if you do nothing. But if you see an opportunity that you think is a good time to use your ult, just use your ultimate in that opportunity. Don't wait thinking, like, you might find a better one. The exception to that, I guess, would be, like, if you're playing, like, with a Zarya on your team and your Zarya is really close to having Graviton, then, yeah, okay, fair enough, save it to use with Graviton, but, like, if you see a good time to use your ult, just use your ult. And if it ends up doing nothing, just ask yourself why that happened, and try to learn from it. Should you stay Widow for the pressure if you are losing the 1v1s? So, like, Widow can still pressure the enemy team, even if the other Widow is better than you, just by, like, you then just have to kind of avoid the enemy Widowmaker more, and try to stay out of her line of sight, while still being as obnoxious with your line of sight as possible for the enemy team. But if it is just, like, you are getting wrecked by the enemy Widowmaker, don't bother playing Widowmaker, because you're gonna be doing basically nothing for your team at that point, because a sniper has to be able to pressure the enemy team. So if you're just getting wrecked, you're not pressuring the enemy team. It is possible to play around the enemy Widowmaker if she's better than you still, but if you are just getting wrecked, then just change off of Widowmaker and try to find a better pick. Are there any amateur leagues I can join? There's almost certainly are, but I wouldn't know. As Mercy, how do you decide whether to res in battle or not, apart from the obvious situations? But given how your team would have a lot less healing during that res time, how can you tell if you should do that res? So, for example, is this a worthy res or not? Let me just take this over here to look at it, because I don't really want to show somebody else's video without permission. Oh god, it's playing an ad. Hold on. Oh, this is, EVA. I don't know why I couldn't read his fucking name. This is EVA. Hold on, I'm watching. So... I don't really think that was a worthwhile res, just because it looks like his team's gonna lose the fight. Basically, he resed Mercy. He resed Mei as Mercy. But, like, it kind of looked like his team was going to lose that fight regardless, so I don't think it was worth resing the Mei, because it looks like she was just going to die again. But, I mean, I don't know, like, maybe. He might have had a reason for why it was good at the same time. Like, it didn't look like it was worth it to me, but it looked like they were going to lose regardless. Like, it's a very difficult question to answer. Like, basically... you have to ask yourself, like, what's the likelihood of me dying? And if it's really low, then okay, that's cool. But then the other question you have to ask yourself is, will my currently alive teammates die if I res this person? Because your highest priority should be the people who are still alive, as far as I'm concerned. The exception to that would be if the person who is dead has their ultimate, and it's a really important ultimate. Like, if you're gonna res Zarya, like, if your Zarya dies and she has Graviton, then you want to try and res her if it is feasibly possible to do so. But also, if your whole team is gonna die while you're resing Zarya, you resing Zarya doesn't matter either, so, like, there's a lot of questions you have to ask, like, can I res them without dying myself? Will my teammates die if I res this person, because I'm not healing them? And how important is the person I'm resing? If it's if the person died, it's like Zarya who doesn't have her ultimate, and she's like, that's probably not worth it, because she's gonna get resed with zero charge, so she's like not even a member of the fight until she builds up some charge. So it's or some energy, I should say, because charge is ult charge. If she doesn't build up some energy, she can't actually do anything, so she's a really low impact res. So it's a difficult question to answer, because there's so many variables. There was this was a TF2 thing from a really long time ago, but there's it compares directly to Mercy because it was about the medic. So one of a pro TF2 player once said that the medic is the easiest hero in the game to play, but he is the hardest hero in the game to teach someone how to play, because so much of it is just weighing, prioritizing targets and weighing who you should be healing and who you should be boosting and that kind of thing. So he's really easy to play the hero, but it's very hard to teach someone how to play the hero. Like, I can tell whether a res is going to be worth it or not, but I'm not really sure how to explain that in a succinct way, because there are so many things you have to consider that have so many variable possibilities, so... And it's like, even if the person is a high priority res, but your team's already lost the fight, then it's not worth resing them. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. Like, the basic gist is, can I res him without dying? Will my team die if I'm not healing them while I res this person? And how important is the person I'm resing? And you just have to kind of weigh that at the time. What do good stats look like for Bridgeter? I think most stats aren't really worth tracking. I would just recommend tracking deaths. Try to keep your deaths as low as possible. It's really important for supports in general, and Bridget is between a support and tank, so how low your deaths are is very important. But, I guess, like, defensive assists, offensive assists should be pretty high, but, like, I think deaths are the most important stat to monitor, really. Can drinking coffee, energy drinks, and other forms of caffeine be an alternative to sleep to reduce fatigue in game? No. Go to fucking sleep. How do you stay focused on growth with limited amounts of playtime? You just have to be really conscious of what you're doing while you're playing, because you have less time, you have to get as much out of that time as possible. So you just have to be really critical and analytical of what you're doing at the time. And, like, really focus on improving the aspect of yourself that you want to improve. You got less time, so you have to use your time as effectively as possible. How do I use Anna's abilities better? But I can't seem to do that. I think it is a problem with how I use her abilities. I usually throw grenades at ulting Zenyatta's or any large groups, and I have a habit of sleeping anyone who looks like an easy sleep. So what can I do to use Anna better? I mean, that's like how you use the grenade, basically. You're trying to get large groups, preferably both teams, because if you can get the healing buff and debuff on people, that's great. Especially if you can get, like, your Reinhardt and the enemy Reinhardt, you probably won the fight, because that's, like, a death sentence for theirs, and, like, your Reinhardt is basically immortal. Don't use it between fights, try to always use it during fights, is the other thing. And don't just sleep any old person, you're trying, like, try to sleep someone who is, the idea is that you use the sleep to defend yourself, or you use it to remove somebody from the fight one way or the other. Like, if you trank a DPS or a support and they're in an exposed position, they'll die, theoretically, because they're immobile for 6 seconds. So they should die, because they should get focused. But also, if you trank somebody really far back, then that just means they aren't taking part in the fight for 6 seconds. And a fight can be over in 6 seconds. Like, it might not be over, but it can definitely have been decided in 6 seconds' time who is going to win and who is going to lose. So, if you trank someone, the goal is to either defend yourself or somebody else, or remove somebody from the fight one way or the other, either because they die or because they were asleep for 6 seconds and the fight happened around them. That's, like, the idea with the trank, and, like, that's the basic gist of how you use the grenade as well, so that sounds like basically you've got the idea. The other problem is just that Anna's kind of not as good as Mercy. Anna, I think, is better than people give her credit for right now in the current meta. I think she's pretty good, but Anna has struggled for a while also. Why don't I win 50% more of my games despite consistent high performance, and what do I need to do to win more? If your performance is consistently high, then you just need to play more games, because it's just how variance works. So the idea is, if you're playing consistently well, there are less people on your team that can be doing badly, right? Because if we assume you are always playing well, or almost always playing well, then there are only 5 people on your team who can be bad, but there are 6 people on the enemy team who can be bad. So the idea is just that over a sufficiently high number of games, you will end up where you should be, just because of how math works. So, if your performance is consistently high, you will eventually climb. It's just how long that takes to happen. I'm stuck around, that's high as well. Like, you just need to play a lot of games. And If you deserve to be in like Masters, Grandmasters, then hey, you'll get there eventually. That's just because of how math works. The problem is just that how long that takes will vary from person to person, unless you are like an actual god, in which case it'll be real fast. But yeah, if you are consistently doing well, you will climb. You just need to play a lot. I can't carry out a plat. How do I relearn Reinhardt? I've been a diamond player, slowly climbing, and I'm sitting at low plat, just above gold. I can't carry as Ryan. I simply can't do the things I do in diamond because I simply don't get the backup I need. Communication is pointless, I agree. Do different elos have different ways of playing specific heroes? Because if that is true, I might just quit the game. There's no point in me trying to get better if getting better is simply a euphemism for learn your specific rank's playstyle. Okay, so, bad news. You might not be able to play any competitive video game. Because guess what? All competitive video games, the ranks fundamentally all play differently. Yes, because they have varying levels of skill. So that's how it is. There is a getting better, like there is the correct way to play the hero, right? Like, that's how the games work. But how you have to play your hero will vary based on your rank, and that's true of all games. Any game with ranks in it, playing in the different ranks, playing in a low rank is fundamentally different to playing in the high rank. That's just how all games are, right? If you play a fighting game, right? Guess what? If you're playing fighters, the ranks are weird in fighters. If you're playing if you're playing in a fucking Namekian rank, that's fundamentally different to the Super Saiyan God rank, right? Like, that's just how life is. If you're playing League of Legends, Silver 5 is vastly different to Silver 1, right? Don't even, like, and that's without even getting to, like, Gold or Platinum, right? And if you get really high up, right, Diamond 1, the low end of Diamond 1 is a different experience to the high end of Diamond 1. That's how all video games work. The ranks are all different, yes, but there is a correct way to play your hero, though. You do have to adjust your playstyle based on the rank you're in. And basically, it typically is like, be more aggressive at lower ranks, get more conservative as you get higher, because you'll get punished for doing dumb shit. But if you're aggressive, you'll punish dumb shit. So, that's the idea. So, bad news, if that's upsetting to you, maybe video games competitively just aren't for you, because that's kind of how they all work. But secondary follow-up to that point, right? So, fucking get good. Also, like, if you are in Diamond, and you're now, like, just above Gold, you should be able to dunk on the other Reinhardt, right? Like, you should be able to fuck the other Reinhardt and punish him, and win the game as a result of that. It's really easy to win games as Reinhardt if you're better than the other Reinhardt, because he won't block your Earth Shatter, and you just read, if you're better than the other Reinhardt, you'll read him like a fucking book, and you'll wreck him, and because you wrecked him, you'll wreck his team, because Reinhardt's a really important member of the team. No one can throw as effectively as Reinhardt can. So get fucking good. If you do deserve to be that high, right? If you were that high and you deserve to be that high, you should be able to fucking dunk on the other Reinhardt in just above Gold. Okay? Like, so, get fucking good, first off. There's that. Secondarily, maybe thirdly, I guess, be less fucking tilted, because you sound like you are a tilted boy right now. And I had another point, but I was so agitated that I've forgotten it. Oh yeah, losing streaks happen, you baby. Like, yeah, don't feel good to be in a losing streak. Happens to all of us, though. So, maybe reconsider playing competitive video games if that is an upsetting concept to you. Secondarily, get good. Thirdly, losing streaks happen. All that. Like, it's so easy to carry as Reinhardt if you're better than the other Reinhardt. It is so easy. Like, you just earth shatter his team and win the game. Like, it's... I'm struggling against the turret heroes. We kind of already talked about this earlier with, like, the Bastion Orisha thing earlier. Like, that is true of the Torbjorn also. Symmetra is weird right now. I'll report back to you on that one, because she's weird right now, but, yeah, like, that's true against Bastion and Torbjorn, from what we said earlier. Why you do what you do? Oh yeah, this guy made a good post. Hold on. Here we go. This was a really good post. This one right here. It basically talks about the synergies between all of the main tank. Well, not all of the tanks, all main tanks, all of the tanks. And it's really good. Come read this if you're interested, or just read it now because I've scrolled up and down it, and you can pause it and read it if you're particularly interested and can't be bothered to go to Reddit. I can sympathize. It was a really good post, though. Recommend. And this is the same thing. Supplementary synergy, Orisa and D.Va. Not gonna read it right now, but the other one was really good. That's probably really good. Check it out. How do I go about getting serious with the game? I mean, I don't really know what that question means. Should I just completely ignore my SR and just keep playing through lost streaks and only worry about my personal improvement? Yes, that is exactly what you should do. It's so much easier. You'll enjoy the game so much more if you don't worry about your imaginary number and you just take more pride in your personal improvement. I've always been of the mindset that you shouldn't be playing to win. You should be playing to improve. You shouldn't be playing the game if you're not trying to win. Fundamentally, it's the same thing. It's just a mindset difference that affects you. If you're not bothered about winning or losing, you're just bothered about learning and improving, you'll have a better time playing the game. You'll be less salty and tilted, and you'll improve faster. Don't worry about your SR. Just worry about your personal improvement. How can I best utilize my insane amount of free time? Should I just legit be playing? Playing for like super extended periods of time can lead to you getting burned out of the game. So like don't like necessarily just do nothing but play the game. If you really want to, by all means, but like doing that can just burn you out and lead to you just like not enjoying the game. And if you like go too hard, that can end up slowing your improvement. It's the same thing with like if you're trying to get physically fit, right? You don't like sit and work out for 8 hours a day, right? Like because that's ludicrous. So similar concept. Like if you are doing something like too much, eventually your brain just kind of like will shut down and like you'll get burned out and you won't really be focusing properly anymore. So like be wary about doing that, but like play the game as much as possible. Don't worry about your SR. Focus on your personal improvement. Should I ditch comp? I mean, that depends what you're into. Playing the game with a coordinate, like with a team, is different to playing a solo queue. I personally prefer like the solo, duo, trio kind of environment, like smaller teams. I don't like the super coordinated stuff is like interesting and all that, but I have minimal interest in actually like being in that kind of environment. I prefer the solo queue, the solo queue experience personally. So like if you're into like the coordination and team synergy and stuff like that, by all means, it just depends on what you're into. Like I'm less interested in that. I'm more interested in like the solo queue, duo queue experience. I've kind of given up in getting in a team just because I haven't found one that is as dedicated as I want it to be. So should I just join? It sounds like you're really into it. If you're into it, then by all means, do that. If you want to be in like a dedicated team and like really focus on improving and all that, you just gotta find that team if you want to. Like if you're into that, hey, you're into that. You just gotta actually find that kind of team. It's out there. Like, you'll definitely find people out there like that. You just have to actually find them. Like, that's the thing. So, that's it's been 2 pages and almost an hour long. We did it. Great job, team. So, thank you very much for watching. If you did, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer. If you haven't already, you can join our Discord and ask questions more directly, or just shitpost with us. And I hope you found the video helpful.